Welcome back, Sips of Success podcast. I feel like I have this. It's hard to like talk because like I feel like the Invisalign trainers are still in. So when I'm talking, it still feels lispy.
Are you gonna take them out?
They are out. I'm saying even when I take them out, when I first take them
they
out,
are.
Yeah, they did. The knots are
On your teeth?
Yeah, babe.
I didn't know those were actually on your teeth to clamp the.
Yeah.
Wow. Learned something new.
All this time, it's been
All
a month.
that time, I did not know that those were on your teeth.
Well, yeah. Welcome back, Sips of Success
Welcome back.
podcast.
What are we sipping on?
We are sipping on Margaritas. Very simple, easy cocktail.
Cheers. Mine is a little darker.
Hers is a little darker. I'd like to do something different for her, make it a little bit more cute, I guess. So I did some, chopped up some lime chunks, which makes it a little bit more green. I also use Reposado. Tequila in hers, so it makes it a tad bit darker. Mine is just a basic white. I don't really. I prefer Reposado. I put a little half and half in this, but it's not as dark. So.
And you have a salt rim. I don't like.
And I have a salt rim, so it's kind of it's for the vibes.
Yeah.
Which I'm probably not even gonna do the salt, but yeah. So cheers.
Cheers. Okay, this or that. A little spicy today. Would you rather be extremely emotionally compatible with someone, but not sexually compatible? Or extremely sexually compatible, like blazing, but not very emotionally compatible?
Well, I'm a man. I'm going with two.
Really?
Like,
are you serious? Okay, this might be the first one we actually disagree on.
The man in me is saying two, but the who I am would probably pick one.
Why?
Wow,
you're really stuck.
I am stuck. I think it's so tough because like you want to have fun and be sexually fulfilled, but also like I think moreover than that, I would prefer to have a woman if that was my issue, that can provide all the other things, because I mean the sex only gonna go so far anyway.
Yeah.
Like, and that's not even in a bad way. It's just like after a while, that's not going to be the only thing that's going to like just fulfill your days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, me as Cameron, one. Me as a man, two.
Okay, that's fair. I would.
It's tough.
Absolutely pick number one, only because I would say that if you are extremely emotionally compatible with someone, I feel like the sex can still be pretty good. Like, how bad could it actually be if you are really like emotionally connected to someone? I feel like the sex has to be at least decent. And then I feel like it's a lot easier to.
It's probably because you really like the person, like you feel connected.
Yeah, and I feel like it's also because sex is a very emotional thing.
Yeah.
It's not just an act. I mean, there are physical attributes that make it better, for sure. But I do think that if it was somebody who was who was very emotionally like also open to learning like how to grow in our sexual compatibility, I feel like that's a lot easier than trying to have someone who's extremely sexually like on it, so, but then
that's why I would pick one, because you didn't throw any of those like stupid variables that you typically throw out there. Where
why they gotta be stupid?
Because you'll do stuff like so emotional, but sex is bad and it can never get better. Like you do that a lot. So because you didn't do that, that's why I would pick one, because I know that it can get better.
Yeah.
In the case that it couldn't, I'm gonna have to be a man on this one. I'm gonna have to go with my
But I just don't feel like sex is able to sustain a relationship at all.
When we're talking about marriage, number one, ease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just simple. Just because, like, you need more to get through life than just some booty. So,
yeah.
you know.
Okay. Well.
But yeah. That was tough. It stumped me a little bit.
Let us know what you guys think. It's a spicy one, but okay. So what are we talking about?
I guess
in the line of sex.
In the line of sex, yeah. Aaron. Before we were married, Aaron had a pregnancy scare.
Yeah, I did.
Like
a couple years before. We're not virgins when we got married.
No.
I feel like for whatever reason, a lot of people want to know that about us. Like
they ask a lot.
Yeah, were you guys sexually active before you got married? Which I don't mind people asking. I think it's because
it's just because we have a Christian background.
Yeah,
I think that's where the question is generally rooted from. So.
Right. But yeah, we had a pregnancy scare that no one knows about
until
literally no one. My mom is going to watch this and she's going to call me immediately and
be like,
what are you talking about?
Speaking of your mom, when that day came, where were you at with your mom?
I was very paranoid because Cameron and I had just started having sex. I mean, this was years into us being together.
Yeah.
And it was kind of just like, you know what? We're already almost doing it. Might as well just
doing
go
everything
but but I was very scared also because I just didn't understand how my body fully worked. And I just thought whenever you have sex, you can get pregnant.
Yeah.
So one day, me and my mom were actually going to the bookstore.
Was it Barnes and Nobles?
Yeah, we were going to Barnes and Nobles. I don't even know why we went there, but anyway, we went in there, and I will never forget. As soon as I walked in, they were baking fresh baked chocolate chip cookies, and this wave of nausea just came over me, and I was freaking out. I'm like, I have never reacted to the smell of chocolate chip cookies
she
like
loves
this.
Chocolate chip cookies.
What in the world? Like, I thought I was going to throw up in the bookstore. Of course, I didn't tell my mom because she would have been freaking out. So I'm like, okay. I called Cameron. I'm like, babe, I think I'm pregnant. Like, I just got so nauseous in the bookstore. I don't know. There's no other explanation. And so he's like, Aaron, I promise you, I did everything right. Nothing...
I know I did everything
protection,
right.
We were just I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on, but something ain't right. Mind you, I'm not even late yet. My cycle wasn't even due to come for another few days. Cameron is also gearing up for a trip to Mexico.
Yes.
And I'm just there's just no way you're going to go to Mexico and I'm going to find out I'm pregnant while you're in Mexico. So we need to take a test before you go.
Yeah.
So I'm still freaking out. I go to Cameron's job.
Yeah, she comes all the way. First of all, Erin, again, she lives pretty far out. She drove all the way downtown, middle of the day. She gets downtown. She's crying at the car.
Yes. Sobbing.
Because
I just, in the pits of my soul, I'm like, I'm pregnant.
And I'm like, there's no way. But then this is where she got me at. Because I'm like, there's just no way. But she's saying all of these, she's like, look, babe, I looked up these pregnancy symptoms, and then I looked them up, and I was like, oh.
But they're all the same as period symptoms as well.
And I wasn't educated on none of that. So I'm like, oh, okay, no, this is real.
Yeah.
So she comes down to my job, and I'm like, all right, well, we just got to do what we got to do. I'm about to get this crib.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to get a house. We're going to all be in one house. This is just, life is going to just go.
It's done now. So it's nothing. I'm not a really sit in something and I guess in sorrow in a way. It's I tend to hold myself accountable for the actions.
Solution oriented.
Yeah, that's just how I think like that. So I'm like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. I know you're a little sad right now, but
everything's gonna be fine. I got us.
Yeah. We good. We good.
Yeah.
So long story short, well, I guess the long part is already taken care of, but long
story medium.
Yeah. I take off. What was it?
Yeah, you took off.
I took off. We go back out to her house because her mom was working and both her parents were working. So she takes this pregnancy test and it said no.
It said not pregnant. And I was just like,
like,
oh my God.
We were like, yes.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. I will never have sex again.
And we did it for a long time.
I was like,
this is not happening.
Yeah,
like, we cold turkey stopped.
Yeah.
So that happened. And then literally as I left, an hour later, she came on her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh my God. Like, it was the most bizarre thing ever. So this happens. We say, oh yeah, you know, we're not gonna have sex ever again. So we go back to this. I just call it like the little Christian kid act, where all of a sudden you're going back to your holier than thou. So, we're like, oh no, we're done. Yeah. We don't do it. That's a lie.
Yeah.
So a couple months
that
passed.
lasted for a while, but then it was like, okay.
But so many people ask, and a lot of people are concerned about, you know, sex before marriage. And the reality is most of us, if not all of us, probably have had sex before marriage. And I think as Christian people in the Christian community, I think you feel ashamed of doing so because of how you're, I guess is how sex is kind of taught to you.
Exactly.
Like, it's like, you know, it's bad until it's not.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That really doesn't make sense. So how can something be bad be good, basically?
Right.
And you know, the very first time, like, go back to the this or that, right? When it talks about compatibility and emotional, like, me and Aaron have been locked in for so long. And we had never talked. I mean, we've talked about sex and we have done like little stuff or whatever, but nothing like, we never went all the way. Put it to you that way. And it was never no real conversation about sex. We both knew like we ain't ever doing it unless we get married. That's what we were on.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
things happened.
Yeah. One thing led to another. We were both adults in the world in our careers, moving on with life. She was living in DC. And I'll tell you one thing, again, in college, I didn't stay on campus. I didn't do any of the things that would even get me really close. I've been close, and like I said, in the questionnaire thing, we had the Q&A. She's definitely more of the completely clean. You know, I've dabbled and dabbled. Just to, I guess, go back to like sex before marriage, for us, the very first time we did it, it was just like, oh, like, this is new, but it just happened. Yeah, like, it literally just happened. And she was living in DC, but I had been there like several times. Like, and it never, this one particular time, it just happened. Yeah. So she's like, again, crying again.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God.
And this is before obviously the pregnancy scare. This was like a couple months before. Yeah. Like, that happened in the summer. This was like kind of earlier in the year. And we were both under the assumption that if you have sex, you can get pregnant. Yeah. Neither of us had the knowledge that, like,
you have to be ovulating in this.
And how hard it is to just all these different things.
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, now we're like, oh, okay, we get it. We have friends who have kids, people who are married. Like, we ask all those questions. It's just like very more prevalent now. Yeah. Which makes sense because we're married. So, like, you get those answers that you may be looking for the future. So, yeah, that's how it was for our first time. Mm-hmm. Not too long after we thought we got pregnant. Yeah. So now, going back to the sex before marriage thing, we would slip up. That's what we like to call it, a slip up. Yeah. And then we'll be like, all right, we're not gonna do this. Right. It's like you get a little taste.
Yeah.
And then
I have
like,
a question. Yeah. Do you think that, because we would set an intention like, okay, we're not gonna have sex. Like, especially when we got engaged, we were like, okay, we're engaged now. Let's be pure during our engagement. Yeah. And we really did like intend to not have sex. Yeah. Do you think that intentionality versus reality are the same thing? So if somebody, which that was a bad question because they're not the same thing, but like if somebody intends to do something where they set this intention, I'm not going to have sex, and then they slip up, versus someone who doesn't set that intention and they just have sex, you know, at their own will. Yeah. Do you think that there is a difference in those two people? Or do you think at the end of the day, both of y'all are having sex and you're kind of the one who is constantly setting this intention and kind of failing at it is basically psyching themselves out in a way? Like, do you feel like we kind of did that? Where like it was kind of like, okay, like we did it this one time, but let's not do it again. And then you do it again. And then like you're setting the intention, but you're not actually
you're like, it's kind of.
I hope that makes sense.
I think I know what you're saying. I feel like for us specifically, I think that once we started, we didn't know. Again, like we were kind of, we're around the adults in our life. We have been around people who have basically told us just don't have sex. Like there's not really definitely for me, there was never really a sit down version of what all of this means. So in my eyes, for sure, I'm thinking like if I have sex with anybody, like I'm not getting nobody pregnant, period. So that was what kind of kept me pretty whole. Like plus on top, I just didn't go away to college. So I feel like that would have been maybe something different. I don't know. Can't guess. Have no idea. But based on how good it is, I can say I ain't that strong. But I think for us, because we had not for so long, I think we battled with the fact that, oh dang, we were perfect for so long. We did do the right thing for so long. And honestly, there's so many wrong things that we did do. It's just that us Christian folk a lot of times think, oh, well, we ain't go all the way, so that's nothing.
It's
and
like, oh, I just like
when the reality is we had already been planting those seeds, and by the time we went all the way,
it just felt like
so you trying to stop is not. I didn't hit the final home base.
It's natural to stop once you started, and
it's very hard once you get. And then going back to the this or that, when you really love somebody and it's like it's really there for us, that's what it was, and it was kind of hard to stay away.
Yeah,
like that's just the reality. Like yes, the intention, which we had held up for so long into our young adulthood. It did hold up for a long time, but there were some things that even just growing from a faith standpoint, like there were things that we had to begin to learn once we did enter that. Like there were things that we had to, read up on and just kind of conceptualize it for ourselves. And again, everybody, I don't forget everybody. I'm guilty of. You could take the word and say this. I'm gonna say this what this means, and I think that's natural. And I think a lot of people don't want to admit to that.
Yeah,
like you want it to fit to where you are.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Like that happens. Like that's reality.
Yeah,
the intention. We intend to be good people, whatever that means. Everybody's definition of being a good person is definitely different.
Exactly.
And I think that's just what it came down for us. I think we had this intention, but we didn't realize at that point that the intention had already been broken.
Yeah. And
by the time we went all the way, there was almost no coming back. And did we
try?
Did we try? Yeah. And sometimes we're longer than others, or whatever. But
like sometimes of no sex we're longer than
others. You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes it just be like that.
Yeah.
Like
you're just like connected. You're just
like
the opportunity presents itself,
and
it's just like, hey, we here now.
Yeah, like what you want me to do?
But I mean, I agree. I think it's just a lot. I do feel like a lot of Christians, and myself included, just really struggle with understanding how to navigate sex when you've, like you said, like you have this switch where most of the time when sex is taught before you're married, it's associated with all the consequences that it can bring. And even as a woman, like I feel like I just had such a lack of understanding on like my body and like what my menstrual cycle meant and like what different phases of that meant. And like you just go in so blind and you feel so guilty, you know, like there's this guilt wrapped around sex, which is designed to be such a beautiful like experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then it's just like when you get married, there's almost like this switch that's just supposed to
be turned
on, and you're just supposed to be like hot and bothered about your husband, and like you're just supposed to be
all these things
that you've been associating for however many years to something consequential almost. You know what I mean? So it's just, I think sex in the Christian like community is just so confusing for a lot of
absolutely
people.
Confusing.
Because it feels good, it is good, it's
all the above. Anything good, it ain't nothing bad about
it. Once it's like such a taboo thing to.
But even
share.
You went through the roller coaster of emotions, and meanwhile, I'm like, I went back to the crib. Yeah. I'm like, oh, bet it's up.
Yeah, I went through a roller coaster of emotions because I'm like, dang, and when you look back, it's like I didn't really fully save myself all those years. Like you said, we just didn't go all the way.
Exactly.
But it's like you have this mindset like, I saved myself all this time, and like, what does God think of me now? And am I going to go to hell? Like, and it's just, I do think that the church puts sex on such a big pedestal that it makes people even more curious about like
and when you're a kid, you are more kids than others. You can be curious. You can also be rebellious on what you're hearing because you got stuff on TV. You got your parents engaging, and you got your parents talking about it. You may go to a men's group. They're talking about how good 1, 2, and 3 is, and you like, man, well, shoot, what in the world are we doing?
Right.
Like, I keep hearing that is bad, but then I go out in the world and it's good. And I'm talking about we're hearing it's good from other Christian people. So it's kind of like a confusing state of at home you're getting don't do that and almost no explanation. And then out in the world you can go to church and then your pastor might say, oh, it's so amazing, right?
I think that's way more uncommon though for a pastor to say sex is amazing.
No, I'm saying like that's why I said a man's group. Like you might go to a man.
I'm like most of the time in church, sex is talked about in a negative way.
No, I'm saying like I've been in men's groups and that's when they kind of let they cape down and they try to get what we call men vulnerability.
But I even think like church does a disservice at talking about sex in the space of marriage. Mm-hmm. Like they don't give you any tools, we saw a video online and this older lady, this younger couple was asking this older couple, she was like, what's your advice for staying married for 45 years?
Oh yeah.
And she was like, suck his.
Yeah.
And like everyone went into like this, like
people were into shambles.
But let's be for real though. Like,
we know you doing it.
It's just like, why is that so?
It's like taboo
to say though. Like the fact that's even taboo, and like you're also married, and this is something that you're supposed to be like engaging in, like pleasing your spouse in a like physical way, emotionally, like in every way that you can.
Yeah.
Why is that something that people are like surprised that you're saying?
But it's frowned upon up until. So they say.
But it's even frowned upon when you are married. That's what I'm saying. Like I feel like people were just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe she said that." You know, like
it's still a shock even when you're married. You're like,
even when you're married, like even when you're married, I see people saying like, "Oh my God, like I'm pregnant now and now my parents know I actually did have sex, even though I'm married."
Right.
Like, it's just like this shame is just always associated.
And I think that's what happened. Like once you do get married, people are like when you get married, all of a sudden you're just going to be this amazing lover in bed if you had like that trajectory or whatever, or you're just going to be this also amazing husband or wife to your spouse when you're going to be cleaning up, making up the bed every day, making a full meal. Like you think all these things are just going to switch. It's not just sex.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother conversation. I feel like when you get married, it's kind of like you're taught like all these things are going to change. And that's just not reality.
Yeah. You are who you were.
And I feel like before you get married, them things you need to go ahead and discuss before you say I do. And I'm talking about really discuss, not like not sugarcoated. Like, oh, I really like this girl. I've been with her for so long. It's just time to get married. No, you might still be missing a few things. Like,
right.
It's just like you wanted to be married is not enough, basically. But yeah, that's.
So, what is your final consensus? Do you think people? I won't say people. Do you think sex before marriage is like, okay? I'll say this: when you have kids, when we have kids, what would be how would you teach them about sex? And also, I think that parents should teach their daughters and sons about sex in the same way.
In the equal way, yeah.
Yes. I don't think it's fair to say, like, oh, to your son, like, go on out there, son, do your thing. And then your little girl, you're like, oh, no, sweetie, you can't have sex till you're married. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah.
So, anyway, how would you teach?
I don't think I have a long, drawn-out answer, but I'll keep it simple. I think when we have kids, whether it's boy and girl or whatever the case may be, they will learn the same thing. But I think I know we will educate them on what this means. We're not gonna frown upon it, and then also we're gonna say we know we were there basically. Like, we're not about to be one of them parents that act like we weren't 18, whatever the case may be before. We're not gonna act like that. We prefer you not to.
Right.
But if you do, it's probably going to be good. It's probably going to be a great experience. Maybe not your first time, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I think transparency is something that I've always desired. And I think the older that I get, because I didn't get those things, that is something that I've just been trying to grow. Even with you, like, I feel like it's been a journey to just be like upfront and say, hey, this is basically what it is. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Behind closed doors.
Yeah.
You did it anyway, so you might as well just go ahead and be upfront about it. And at the end of the day, your kids can either hide from you about it or
still be doing it.
Yeah. Or they can come tell you like, hey, today was the day.
Yeah.
And then you go from there and not be mad. Like, I really don't think that I would be mad. I don't want them to. I didn't want us to.
Right.
But I understand how life works.
And I would say the best thing, I think a lot of parents shun away from being open about their sexual
how they
past
started,
because they feel like their kids may judge them, or I don't know, may think certain ways about them.
I feel like you would
I would feel more respectful to my parents if I knew like what they like through the lens of, obviously you ain't about to be like, oh yeah, I did this, 1, 2, and 3, this. Right, yeah. But like, I wouldn't mind sharing with our kids that I had a pregnancy scare or that we had sex before we got married or like whatever, like some of those things, like why I didn't have sex with certain guys or why you didn't have sex with certain girls. Or I just think that it's important to be open with your kids and have those types of conversations, because when you aren't, like, they're still thinking about it anyway. And they're still curious and they're still going to explore things. They're still going to be touching themselves. They might try to watch porn. They might try to do, like things that kids who are going through puberty just do, and it's just like, you can't be so naive as a parent to not think that your kid will think about or feel those things.
I can't stand when parents think their kids just ain't did nothing. Like, it may be true. But even a kiss? Like,
no, but like, it was funny because I was out to eat and one of the girls was telling us about her son, and she was like, he like snapped at me one day, and I looked at him and I said, you having sex, ain't you? And he said, yeah, how you know? And she said, because you getting a little too spicy. You smelling yourself too much. And she was like, that's how I knew as a mom. And she was like, you just have to be open with your kids, because I think a lot of parents think that they are being open until it's really time to be open.
I mean, you heard my dad when he was in the hospital. He was like, he just know.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he was referring to, but it's like you assume your kids just know, probably because you grew up in the church. No, that is not the case.
That's not enough.
That's just not, that's not enough. Simple.
Yeah. So, I mean, I agree. I think that I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't encourage my kids to have sex before marriage. But I wouldn't
I think that I know for a fact they will be educated on what that.
I would want to educate them.
Yeah, and all that can come with it, all the good, the bad, the whole nine. Like it's not going to be this. Oh shoot! I can't ask my parents. What is that or what is it? Or I heard this in school. Because when you go to your kids are either going to learn it in school. Because I learned a lot. I learned everything in school basically. Yeah, I learned everything in school. It's either you're going to let them learn outside or they can learn in the crib. Yeah. That's just how I view it.
Yeah. And teaching them, to me, I think a reason why a lot of parents don't is because they think that that's going to encourage them to do so. Yeah. So I feel like people think the less I talk about it, the less curious they may be about it or, but now it's just like, maybe that worked 25 years ago, but now
it's just the world is different.
It's too open now. The world is just too accessible. And even if it's not, like, kids be knowing.
Kids be knowing. Like, I knew stuff, you knew stuff, like, but it's just, it shouldn't be taboo. It shouldn't be like this scary topic. It should be just another topic like anything else. Yeah. So, that's us.
Well, my last question is, are you glad that we ended up having sex before we got married?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I felt like because I had never really just gone, I feel like my curiosity might have affected me in the worst way had I not tried before.
What do you mean by that?
Because going back to the this or that question, right? Yeah. Were we emotionally attached and everything above but that prior to engaging in sex or whatever? Yeah. But had we gotten married and I had this idea of what sex was supposed to be and this flip was supposed to be turned on, and knowing who you are, that wasn't going to happen. Like I would have been just frustrated because I'm thinking that my whole life up until like we, go through our journey of learning, I'm thinking like we get married, it's supposed to be just on and popping. Right. I think it's just as simple as that. So yeah, the intention was not to, for all the regular reasons, but I am happy that we did just because like you get a taste, you like, okay, you like, all right, okay, I like this, Yeah. And then you also get to grow with it.
I agree.
And some people might disagree with it or whatever, but that's okay. That's just the real answer. It's just like we got to grow with it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, we got
married. Yeah. Then it really was like more on and popping because we had like at least a little bit of experience. Yeah. And I feel like I probably would have been more nervous to get married. Not to get married, but like for our wedding night or. I'm just trying to.
I'm even going from we're both very private people in a way, and you for sure. I'd be curious to know if you were even want to get undressed in front of me. Yeah. Like, it's just things like that. That it would have not just been like the act of sex. It would have been like, well, dang.
All of these things.
I can't see her shower. I can't see her put no panties. What am I getting out of this getting married? This suck. Yeah. Essentially. Because like, I'm just saying like you.
But that would have been a whole journey that we would like for somebody that's how they envision it. Like some people envision it as like, we're going to start at ground zero and.
Yeah, but we didn't have that. We didn't know. We just assumed, just like we've been taught to assume. We've assumed that when we got married, it was just going to be popping. But the reality was, that's definitely not where you were. And
there are layers that you have to be like off. Unfolded.
You can have this plan, but the plan doesn't always work how you see it. Because how I saw it is probably how it would have went had we not.
Right. I agree. I think we needed.
The plan was not to, but we did.
I think that the build up was necessary.
It was.
Because once we got married, it was fine.
It's great. Like,
but yeah, I mean,
and even still, like, it was great. It's still kind of like, dang, it's gonna be like little Christian kids out there, folks or even our peers or whatever, or adults in our life. Them like, what they over there talking about, basically. But yeah,
I mean, that's just the reality of it. Sex is not a compartmentalized thing where before you get married, it's not great, and then after you get married, it feels greater. At least not for us. Like it felt great the whole time. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. It's not like it was like.
Well, the first time was the first time.
Yeah,
but it was kind of like.
But do you get what I'm saying? Like we can't say, oh, it didn't feel good before we got married, but then once we got married, it felt amazing.
It was different. No, it got better. It kept getting.
It got better because
it's constantly getting better.
We were more emotionally like.
Yeah, honestly, too, it made us closer.
Yeah,
like it didn't make us further apart. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
But anyway, that's our spiel.
We had sex before marriage, and
we did.
It was good, and it's just it's that. Yeah. So yeah. Of course, we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. We do hope that. I just hope that we can keep growing in transparency. I hope that that's something that you all maybe be able to think about. And if you do have sex before marriage, don't be ashamed. I feel like we had a stage of, even now, I feel like it's still like this hard thing to just admit the fact that you had sex. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Anyway, grow where you can grow. And
like if you're Christian, like pray about it too, and just like I feel like it's good to make sound decisions. Like make a decision that you feel okay with. And the reason why I was okay with having sex with you was because you showed me all the right things. Like I trusted you. Yeah. It wasn't like I was just like, exactly. Like there was a reason why we did it. So I think if you are Christian and like this is something that you are thinking about or battling with or have set an intention, but maybe it didn't go like you planned, like don't beat yourself up about it, but like, don't like pray and figure out what sex actually means to you.
Yeah, learn it for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
all right, you guys.
If you rock with me, then you rock with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Be easy.